What's up, everyone? I'm Audrey Gray, and today we are going to talk about kids' powerlifting equipment. Stick around and see what you could buy or make, and then get your kids into the gym and getting some PRs.
What's up, everyone? That was my daughter Audrey. If you follow along on Instagram, you've probably seen her lifting, being a little crazy, swinging from the rafters, all kinds of good stuff. She pops in occasionally, and she's my helper today for today's video. We're going to talk about powerlifting equipment for your kids, for your garage gym. As always, I like to make sure that my stuff is inclusive, so hopefully I can cover things that you can both make and buy, depending on what your budget looks like and your goals and all that kind of stuff. So, two things we're gonna not cover today. I wanna clarify that, not cover. Number one is when I first talked about this topic, people brought up a lot of really cool things like rings and medicine balls and different stuff that kids like to play with in the gym. I will not be covering that topic because my dude Adrian over at Gluck's Gym already did. I'll link that video in the description below and you can check that out. Number two is before you invite your kids into the gym, you need to make sure you have a welcoming and safe environment for them to participate. So if you have things all over the place that they can trip over, bad idea. Make sure it's organized, clean, and ready, as well as you need to know how to have your kids lift. So if you can't coach them through some basic lifts, if you can't correct them, if you can't help them learn as they go through the process, please do not do so. I love having my daughter in the gym, but I know how to help her transition from a very, very, very beginner to where she is now. So make sure you have those abilities, and if you don't, seek someone who can. We've written a couple of articles on the Garage Gym Competition website, I'll link those below as well, about how you can invite your kids into the gym and how you can start to train them, what that looks like, things like that. So that's it on those two topics. Let's dig into the equipment. Luckily for powerlifting, it centers around the basic equipment. Bar, plates, rack, bench. For your kids, you don't need a dedicated bench. Your kids can use whatever bench you have. So that leaves us with three items: bar, weights, rack. Let's look at the bar first. All right, so we've got a few different bars on display here. If you've got a kid who's under the age of about 3, you don't need to get crazy on a bar. Don't buy one, don't do anything. The bar should probably be something like a wooden dowel. You can have a PVC pipe, you can have a broomstick, anything that is bar-like, your kid is gonna want to pick up and mimic your movements. That's it. You don't need extra weight, you don't need anything else. They're simply going to bench it, squat with it, deadlift, that's it. And you can teach them a lot of those movements with something simple like this. As they get a little bit older and they get into that 3 to kind of 5-year-old range, because kids develop so quickly, you can move up to something like a kid's bar. So here we have an OSO bar. I bought this for Audrey pretty early on. It weighs 5 pounds. It has a weight rating up to 50 pounds, which is good for most kids for quite a while. Or you can take your wooden dowel, you can modify it, you can put some clamps on here to create kind of some false collars of some kind. You can drill some screws in, different things, so that way you're able to load it. Or you can do what I did here, which is literally a PVC pipe that I cut to size and then put some sleeves on. So this was a couple of bucks at the local hardware store. So the OSO bar is kind of the expensive version. As you can see, the sleeves even spin and stuff. It's not necessary, but it is fun. And this is kind of the cheaper way to go. This is still gonna hold pretty good, assuming you bought some decent PVC, and should be able to hold up to most of what your kids are able to hold. And the cool thing here with this is you can even put some collars on there and it looks pretty much like a real bar. So at about the age of 6 is probably when you're gonna need to consider actually buying a bar for your kids, regardless of what level, how much they've been lifting or anything like that. So that's where you step into something like here, which is where we have the GGC Junior Bar. So bars go from kids to junior to women's bar to like men's powerlifting bar kind of thing. So that's a 5-pound bar, about a 25-pound bar, a 35-pound bar, and a 45-pound bar. There is one in between there. You can get like an aluminum training bar that's about 15 pounds if you really want to make those jumps. I don't find that to be conducive in any way because, again, this can be loaded up to 50. So having a specific bar at 15 just is kind of useless to me. So we partnered with Weighted Out to make this bar for the competition. You can see on the end cap here that the kids can write their name. So it'll literally be your kids' bar branded. A little incentive to get them out into the gym lifting weights, attacking the PRs and stuff. This bar has some nice knurling on it. It's zinc coated, so it's protected from the environment, all kinds of good things. It's got dual lifting marks, so both powerlifting and Olympic lifting. The shaft spins just enough for a kid, the sleeves spin just enough for a kid. And this bar is rated to 500 pounds. So most of you watching this can probably actually use this as your primary bar. But this bar is going to be my daughter's bar for years to come. It's an investment that we decided to make, and I wanted to make available to others if they want to make that as well. I think that once you get up over that 50-pound weight limit, you probably need to step away from the DIY items and actually move into something legit. Your kid is going to be holding it over their face, putting it on their back, picking it up. There's a certain point where, unless if you're very handy, that I think that DIY starts to get a little out of the realm of safe, and more moving into the purchased equipment makes sense. So those are the bar options for kids. Again, we'll restate, they should start off with something simple, PVC, wooden dowel, something like that. You can then move into either a kids bar or a homemade bar of some kind, and then eventually transition into a junior bar, which again should last them until they're ready to pick up a full-sized adult bar. So, okay, let's take a look at plates. Okay, so for weights, as I mentioned, if you're starting out with them young, you got like a wooden dowel, broomstick, something like that, you really don't need weights. They just need to go through the movement of bench, squat, deadlift, those kinds of things. Once they move up to the point where they're about maybe 3-ish is probably when you can start considering something like loading up the kids bar or your homemade kids bar of some kind. This is where you can go a couple of different routes. So for things like bench and squat especially, you can load up, you want to hand me the micro Gainz? Yep. You can load up, so we really like the micro Gainz. So these are little tiny guys. They go all the way down to a quarter. They fit really nicely. They go up to, so they're in increments of a 1/4 pound, 1/2 pound, 3/4 pound, and a pound, I think is right. And as you can see, they slide right on there, right on that sleeve. And then one on the other side, right? And again, this is my DIY bar, so it's not super pretty, but it works. They'll fit even better on a regular bar. So those are awesome to be able to give your kids that feeling of lifting weights, right? They're actually loading the bar like you do without them having to load like a 5-pound plate or more. You can load the entire set and only be a couple of pounds in, which is nice. If you don't want to buy plates, you can always make your own. So I hole sawed these out of some leftover like plywood boards that we had. So those fit on there nicely. Nice little gaps. So these are great. Again, the idea isn't necessarily to really add weight at the younger ages. It's to give the perception of adding weight. It's to make them feel like they are participating the same way you are in lifting. And then if you want to go super extra, you can do what we did, and we made Audrey some plates. So these look exactly, not exactly, but very close to my personal 45-pound plates. I made these and put her birthday and her birth weight and size and all that stuff on them, so they're totally personalized with her name on there, but they also fit. Will they fit this bar? Yeah, there we go. On there. So the cool thing here is these are actually the right size to be a 45-pound plate. So if you have your kid deadlifting, they can actually deadlift from a pretty decent height, as opposed to trying to pick a bar, like an quarter of an inch off of the ground. So again, these are cool because they look awesome. We made these with the help of my cousin. So I'll link some materials down below if I can figure out exactly what we did. But it was like a pine board that you should be able to get at your local hardware store. One second, baby. And then we spray painted the letters on, cut the various pieces, painted the whole thing black, the whole deal. You can buy plates like these from Executive Fit. I will link that as well in the description. So if you want something like this, that's actually a bit prettier than this. He CNC machines, awesome stuff. I'll have a discount code for you down below as well for that, so you can check those out. And he makes everything from platforms to rack, cross member decals, and all kinds of cool things. So yeah, so for plates, really, again, Audrey's a beast, and at almost 6 years old, she deadlifted, which was her biggest lift, 65 pounds. Most kids probably aren't going to lift that much until they get older, and at that point, you can start loading kind of more traditional plates on, which is okay. The only thing you want to look at is that deadlift, and you can do that either with blocks. You can raise it up so it's at a better height. Like I said, you can use plates like this, something to get them up. So plates are pretty simple. Let's take a look at the rack. All right, the rack. So obviously you have your own rack. One of the issues is that when kids are younger, if they are actually lifting of any kind, the OSO bar and the other kids bars do not fit in a rack correctly. They are too short. So you need to come up with some type of a solution. You're in the way, baby. So we made these squat stands. I am not a woodworker. I do not have any specialty tools. I have a circular saw and a tape measure and some drills. That's it. So when I say that these are just okay, I mean they are just okay. So do not be afraid. These are pretty easy. You can see that they actually take regular J-cups. So you can load up, if you have an extra pair or just one pair, you can load these up. And then, baby, can you grab me your bar that's over there? Okay. And then your kid's bar can work with these, even though, thank you, friend, it is shorter. So, if you're more talented than I am, you can probably come up with something even more spectacular. But this is the simple solution that we've found that has worked over the years. She has lifted with these for the last couple. She still does for bench and for squats because she's not quite strong enough to move into using her new fancy GGC bar for all three of her lifts from a warm-up up through. She will probably be able to, when she enters the garage gym competition and goes for something closer to her 1 rep max, be able to use that bar in the rack for all 3 lifts. But right now, this is the solution for her warm-ups and for when she works out with us during the week. So, other potential options I've seen is using things like rack offsets. So that's where typically a powerlifter would have a bar. They would come in on each side so that we can get your hands out wider. That would work potentially for a similar idea for kids to be able to rack a small kid's bar. But this is the main solution that we've had, and I think is the easiest for most people to make work. As I mentioned before, the GGC Junior Bar is rackable just like any other bar, so you won't have any hesitation or hiccups there. So for racks, again, this is gonna hold like 30 pounds at most, so it doesn't have to be anything crazy. The J-cups going into these 1x2s is more than enough. All right, everyone, today we looked at bars, plates, and racks for your kids to get them into powerlifting at home. So I will leave notes in the description for links and details on all the stuff we talked about. So whether it's the retail, buy it off the rack stuff, or any of the kind of DIY items I specifically mentioned, I will have articles to, links to the articles that I mentioned earlier about how to get your kids involved in the gym, as well as the video from my buddy Gluck. So those will all be in the description. If you want more on this topic, say you want me to actually make one of these plates or walk through the build of the squat stands, one of the kids bars, whatever, let me know in the comments below. I'm more than willing to spend more time on this topic if you believe it is helpful. This was not meant to be a fully comprehensive guide. Instead, it was really meant to be kind of inspirational and informational, so then that way you could see what we've done and try and apply it in your own space with the tools, skills, budget, abilities, whatever it is you might have, as well as the goals for you and your family. So, like I said, if you want anything more specific, feel free to ask in the comments below. I am more than willing to do write-ups, additional videos, etc. But that's it for this video on kids powerlifting equipment. Peace. I didn't want to wrap up the video just quite yet without showing off this one. This is Audrey's Rickshaw. So you've probably seen me outside, or even my wife carrying our Rickshaw, doing our weighted carries. Audrey, from a pretty early age, was trying to pick ours up, which of course it's too wide and too heavy for her to do. So we ended up making her one. She used it so much that she got too strong for the original build, and so we built a version 2. We've let her paint it and do all kinds of cool stuff. It is certainly not fancy. It's a bunch of stuff slapped together. This cost probably the cost of paint, and that's it. But it does what we need it to do. So this is another option for you. Even if you're not into powerlifting, you're into strongman, whatever, you can get stuff done for your kids. So same thing, if you want to see the build of this, maybe you want me to build a log, whatever, you let me know, I'll figure it out. All right, peace.